Welcome to 40 Below Zero, an international podcast about life with invisible illnesses, hosted by two guys living with multiple sclerosis. Coming to you from the Keystone State of Pennsylvania, I'm your co-host Nix, and with me on this ride is Terry, a Londoner who calls Ontario home. We're so happy you're here with us as we continue to try and normalize a life that is anything but. So let's get into it. Welcome back, Warriors. Terry, I missed you, buddy.
I missed you too, man. What the hell? It's been like 2 months.
Yeah, 2 whole months. But no, seriously, well done last week. Yell did a fantastic job. It was great listening to the show as a fan. So it was really exciting.
Yeah, it was great. I was a little nervous, but everything worked out, man. She's awesome. I can't wait to have her back on again.
Solid job to both of you.
Feel free to take more breaks.
I may have to, depending on scheduling. Last week, the reason why I couldn't be a part of the show is because I had interviews to do with the MS Society. I had two interviews. One was talking about my involvement with the ambassador program, and the other was they wanted to do a feature spotlight piece on new advocates, and they were very excited to hear about our show. So hopefully some people gravitate to us in the future. It was good. Just, scheduling conflicts, but I'm back. You did a great job.
Thanks, man.
What'd you do over the last week? Anything?
Not really, man. Just took it easy. It rained like crazy here. I fell down again, but I didn't fall like everyone, I just, that's my excitement for the week.
Did you
And I
hit your
got
nose
back
again?
up. No, I didn't hit my nose. I got no scuffs on my face.
Okay, good.
But
Terry, I worry.
Katrina,
I was gonna
it,
say I worry, bro.
dude, Katrina, being my caregiver,
Uh-huh.
picks me up and she hurt her back. That's the story. Yeah.
Terry.
She's better now, but she woke up the next day and she was in agony. And her best friend's like, "What happened?" She's like, "I have no idea." And I'm like, "What do you mean? You picked me up yesterday."
Yeah.
I was a dead fish when she picked me up because I was trying to get back on the floor to reset, to get back up. I'm like, "No, no, no, drop me. I'm not getting up." So, she used all her muscle and the next day she's in pain.
Oh
She's
boy.
doing better.
Terry,
She's
Terry,
fine.
Terry.
She's
Well,
fine.
good.
But this is what
Well,
happens, right?
hopefully she recovers quickly. So we wish her all the best,
Thanks, man.
especially if she has to take care of you.
Mhm.
So tell us about our guest this week, brother.
Yo, remember I went on a trip? Do you remember who
Yes.
came with me?
Yes.
We got her.
Nice.
Dude, in this trip, Jed, I've heard all your stories. And I'm like, yo, how are you not on our show? And all your stories is that typical, nobody knows what you're going through unless you tell them. Because I look at you, you're in a chair and you look, fine. I'm like, what's wrong with her? Is your legs not working? You know what I mean? This is all these questions people ask in the general public, I'm sure. But then we started talking and you have other problems. Who cares about the chair? You have other problems, dude. And I don't want to,
In case you
you know,
didn't know.
in case you didn't know.
I
No, but we
do.
were, yeah, I mean, other than the fact that you had to take care of me in that trip and you had to deal with my um, fluctuation issues. No, I'm just joking. I didn't have any. But anyway, yes, I want to hear your story on here, please. And I'm going to pick at it because there was a bunch of stuff you were saying to me. And on top of that, you have a family, you have children that experience what you're going through. Holy shit. Jen, thanks for being here, first of all.
I'm
And
excited. Thanks for having me.
awesome.
First question I have for you, Jen.
Right into it.
How hard was Terry holding your hand during the flight?
He actually wasn't holding my hand. He just ate an entire package of Tic Tacs.
Yes,
Like he was
the
trying to
Tic
look
Tacs.
super casual. He's like, I could tell he's like just trying to look super chill on the outside. He does a pretty good job. And I know because I also can do that. And I'm like, yeah, Terry's going through it right now.
Nick, what's up, man? Why is this about me? Stop shaming.
He did great.
I haven't seen you in a week.
She's been on 10 trips since we came back.
Right.
Just so
No,
you know.
not
Right.
10, but a few.
If,
A
dude,
Okay.
few.
okay, a few.
But guess what? Guess what I tried because of you? For the very first time on a flight, I used the aisle chair to use the washroom.
You never used the washroom before?
Never. And I've been on tons and tons of flights. I've never, ever used the washroom on a plane because I'm like, yo, I'm not doing it. I just don't drink anything forever, which is terrible for you, I know.
You
But
shamed me for that. We're going to talk about that. First of all, why can we get into it like straight up?
sure.
Why do I see you in a chair?
Well, I'm just really lazy and I just like to sit down. No, so I am coming up on 3 years since I had a spinal cord injury.
Okay.
And initially, after my injury, I was pretty naive about it, under the assumption that if I just worked hard enough, I wouldn't have to use a chair for a long time. And that's just not how things turned out. So, it's taken a little bit of time, and I'm still kind of working through that mindset of like, if I just do this, then I might get this function. But I'm starting to realize that it's literally my freedom to do what I want to do. And, despite everyone having this negative sort of view of it, it's what allows me to still do life the way that I want to do it. So I'm kind of at that point where I'm starting to like accept it. And I'm like, whatever, bring it on.
Nice. Where's if I may ask, where's the break?
What level? L2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
L2. Okay.
So are you telling me that your journey started 3 years ago? Or do you
I
have
mean,
other
this
stuff?
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
saying. That's what I mean. People look at you
Yeah.
and it's like the chair is the problem. Oh,
So I'll give you a little backstory and then you can kind of pick at all the details because there's a lot. This is the first very visible issue that I've had. So prior to having the spinal cord injury, I have a condition called POTS, which is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, which means that when I stand up, my heart rate goes from my resting rate of 70 to about 140 or 150 within about 1 to 2 minutes. So you kind of feel like you're just jacked up and your heart's going to explode when you stand up, which kind of sucks. It also leads to oftentimes just, passing out and hitting your face on things and or breaking bones, which I've done. And this is longstanding. This is something that I've had like probably since my teenage years. Initially, it was sort of like infrequent and it didn't really impede anything until I guess I was probably like just maybe late teens or 20s. And it started happening more frequently. And actually, I was diagnosed with epilepsy.
Mm.
So I had all the testing done for that. And even though the like electrical recordings that they do were normal, they're like, well, sometimes it just doesn't show activity when you're taking these tests. And I ended up being on seizure medication for like 7 years. And I mean, with all the side effects that come with that, and, of course, like dealing with not having a driver's license and whatnot, at some point it just, became apparent that that's maybe not what was going on. A combination, I think, of thinking that medication wasn't working. And then what ended up happening was this one particular time, I was actually away at med school, and one of my friends was with me, and I happened to pass out when she was there. And she just noticed like right away that my heart rate was like 180, 200 kind of thing. So that's when my cardiac investigation started. I was, I think, 24, I want to say, or 25-ish. So I had already been dealing with this for like, whatever,
mhm.
8 years. So from that point, when they started investigating cardiac issues, I would say within about 6 months, I had a pacemaker implanted. And when that happened, I remember being like totally distressed, thinking, what am I going to do? Like, I don't want to have this foreign device. But I also kind of held this hope that it would fix everything,
Mm.
right? Like,
Right.
if I just get this problem will go away. I'm going to feel so much better. I'll be cured. And that is like the furthest thing from what actually ended up happening. So I got the pacemaker, kept passing out.
Has it ever misfired?
Oh,
So that's like a little further down the line. So
Okay.
the first device that I had was just a pacemaker, so it'd keep your rate from going too low. And then somewhere along the lines, they did some testing and they were like, you actually have this crazy arrhythmia that can cause sudden cardiac death. Like, those are great words to hear, right? You're
Sure.
like, cool. So
okay.
what do we do about that?
Let's go back. Hold on. So you
Yeah.
don't have epilepsy anymore, right? That
Nope.
was a misdiagnosis.
Yeah. Whoops.
Okay. Oops. 7 years of
7 years in
medication.
meds. Sorry about
Oops.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now, okay, it's misfiring. Oh my God. You told me the whole story. We're going to dig into it if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Um, by the way, when you had all this, you weren't with like your life at the time, your 20s. You
Hmm.
weren't married, you didn't have kids, and
Not yet.
this all
No.
happened after. Did it
Yeah.
did it
Yeah.
affect you while being pregnant? Just curious, like was the
Yeah.
doctors, oh, yo, this lady has this. You got to make sure, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
so I actually had a whole mess of stuff happening from those years where I was like 24 to 28, which is when I had my first kid.
Mhm.
So in between there, somewhere along the lines, they said, yes, you have this horrible sudden death arrhythmia. So we're going to give you a defibrillator, which is like a pacemaker with souped up leads that can shock you if your heart rate goes too fast. Cool. I'm going to get one of those. So I get one of those
Mhm.
and forget that I had one. I don't know how you forget that you have a defibrillator. Um, but that's fine. I just went about life and did a bunch of things, and I got an infection in my heart. And I guess like sometimes it comes from the wires that go down through the vessels. That's when I found out I was pregnant. So I happen to have this infection. I go into the hospital. Canada doesn't have any beds open for me. So I go to Toronto General and they're like, we'll phone you when there's a bed available. Go home.
Really?
What? Like, I have an infection in my heart valve. And they're like, go home. We'll find a bed for you and we'll phone you. So I phone up my surgeons where I had the procedure done, which was in Kentucky. And they're like, can you drive here? Like, can you get here tomorrow? Yes, sure. So I'm supposed to go to Kentucky and I end up like, this is ridiculous. I don't even know how so many things can go wrong. But I go to drive to my dad's house because he's going to drive me down there. On the way, almost at my dad's place, he calls me and he sounds like he's dying, like he's having a heart attack on the phone. Turns out his appendix had ruptured. Now my dad can't drive me
Wow.
to Kentucky. So I'm like, yo, like I call my brother. I'm like, can you bring me to Kentucky like today? So I go down there. They always run a pregnancy test when you have a uterus. And I get a phone call in my little private hospital room where in the United States, you're treated like royalty in the hospital, right? Like you're not in a 4 ward bedroom with like old people or people, moaning. You're like in your suite. They're like, here's your menu. You can get chicken fingers and fries. I'm like, cool. This is fine. I'm going to have surgery tomorrow. Phone rings. I pick it up. It's my cardiologist. And he says to me, I have some news for you. Your pregnancy test is slightly abnormal.
Wait,
Okay. First
Did
of
it's not
all,
you
going to
like,
be abnormal. It's either yes or no.
yes or no, exactly. Like,
did
it's a
you
hormone level.
have any clue? Like, were
That I
you
was
like,
pregnant?
yeah, like when he said that,
No,
were you like, oh yeah, makes sense.
no,
Okay, go
no.
ahead.
Okay. So this is the night before surgery, and he calls me and he tells me this, and he says, so procedure's canceled for the morning. We have to talk to OBGYN because we've never done this surgery on someone while they're pregnant.
Ooh,
So I'm like, okay, cool. They come around in the morning. First thing they say is like, do you want to keep it? And I'm like, well, fuck, like,
wow.
yeah, like absolutely. So
Congratulations.
yeah, exactly. And then of course, like you're trying to tell your family this news while you're like, hey, like I'm about to have heart surgery, but also like I'm pregnant. Woo! They're not excited for you. They're just like, this is a gong show. This is a mess, right?
Yeah.
So I decide that I'm going to have this surgery and I tell them that I'm not having a general anesthetic. You are going to use as little drugs as possible. I'm going to have light sedation and you're just going to local anesthetic freeze me and do this surgery. It was not awesome.
Did they say okay, or were they
Yeah.
suggesting not to do
No, they
that?
did it. They did it. They did what I asked. So yeah, I mean it wasn't awesome. But I did get through it and ended up having a central line in where they like leave the line in towards your heart so that they can deliver IV medication through it. And I just so happened to be at the stage in my doctorate where I was supposed to be doing residency rotations at different hospitals. So the reason why I had had surgery in Kentucky is because I was at a hospital placement there. And I was there for 6 months. While I was there, I had had surgery. I had had some crazy complications from that. So I was supposed to be starting a residency at a hospital in the GTA. So I had to find a physician to accept me before I was allowed to go back to Canada, which, the only reason I got someone is because I had some connections.
Yeah.
But I ended up going to a new rotation at a new hospital with a central line in and administering my own antibiotics every day for 3 months.
In Canada.
Yeah.
Okay. It's
Yeah.
confusing how you went to Kentucky.
Yes. Yeah. It was just
No, it's
literally
not.
like
She
my
wanted the
surgeons
sweet
were
and the
like,
chicken
yo, like,
No,
fingers.
get
bro.
here.
Nobody wants to go to Kentucky. Sorry, I said it. Yo, I'm just
Not
It
joking.
was a
true.
great hospital. I mean,
I'm
they were
just
great.
joking.
Not true.
Your
It's a
dad, is he okay?
beautiful place.
Yeah, my dad's fine. My
Sorry,
dad's
Nick.
fine. I was like, Dad, like, yo, hang up the phone and call 911, you moron, right? He's like, no, I'm not calling. I'd rather die. Yeah, okay. Stoicism at its best, right? So anyway, so that was that. I was
Yeah.
pregnant, yay. Got through that rotation. I had gotten a new defibrillator put in. And then what? Then I had a kid, forgot about all my problems. Had another kid, like really close after, uh, like a year and 3 weeks after.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I believe
I've
I
got
believe they call them Irish
Irish
twins.
twins. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We had this double stroller. And this double stroller, we used to call it the double free. I don't know why. I think maybe because we felt like it was freedom. But would like roll these kids all over the place. Like we'd go to the grocery store and we'd just get whatever would fit under this double stroller. So I was busy. It was like a really crazy time in life. I had, just finished being away for school for like almost 4 years and being with the same partner and like getting to move home and have kids and have a job and pay off American student loans, which really sucks. Um, but
Can
I
confirm.
mean, yeah, like
Did
$250,000
you
worth of student
did you
loans.
say American
Yeah,
student loans? And that really sucked.
yeah,
Just
Hmm.
making sure that you said that. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So that's that. Now I have two kids,
Mhm.
right? And I mean, things are going pretty well. That would have been like, I don't know, we're coming into like 2012.
So you had
So
no complications, like when after the procedure you had, and then you had your
No,
kids.
I didn't have any complications. I mean, I had like high risk pregnancies and they just called it high risk and I had lots of extra appointments from that, but that was just kind of life. I didn't really have I had some arrhythmia during my first pregnancy where like my heart rate just wouldn't come down. And I remember at one point being admitted to the hospital and I said to them, "You have 3 days." And they just kind of looked at me. I'm like, 3 days and peace out. Like that's as long as I'm staying. You can run whatever tests you want for 3 days. When I get to that point, if you don't have your shit together, I'm leaving. And I did. So yeah, it was
Nice.
kind of awesome to be like empowered where it was like, actually, no, like I own myself and like I don't have to do what you say just because you have this like these letters behind your name. So
Patient advocacy at its finest.
yeah.
Self-patient advocacy.
Yeah, I
Well
actually
done.
fired my first doctor during one of the visits too, because it was this person who I had seen during the time that I had that infection, and they just spoke down to me so much. Like they wouldn't answer my questions. They're like, just very full of themselves. I'm the expert. Like you must listen
Mm.
to me. And I remember them calling for a consult, and I'm like, who are you calling? And they said this same physician's name, and I was like, nope, absolutely not. So then, of course, I could hear them all like nattering on about why this patient wouldn't accept this physician.
Yeah.
And so I just outright told one of them, I was like, because he treated me like an asshole. That's why,
Yeah.
like I don't like to be treated like that. I don't treat people like that. So don't do it to me.
And
Um,
and
yeah,
the whole time you're dealing is the POTS is that still flaring up? Are you still dealing
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that?
but I mean,
Is
I kind of learned to manage it. It was one of those things where it was like,
okay.
I just couldn't stand still upright. Like I could, as long as I'm in perpetual motion, I would be okay. But like
Okay.
oftentimes I'd have to sit down, if we were waiting in line, like I can't stand and wait in lines and things like that. But I mean, I never dropped any of my kids on their head because of it, which was good.
The reason why I asked is because I didn't know if having that pregnancy changed your hormone levels or the blood pressure. Like I didn't know how that pregnancy alone affected the rest of your cardiovascular stuff.
Yeah, it depends on the person. Like, I think sometimes
Hmm.
if people have more of a low blood pressure component to it, which I do, your blood pressure generally goes up when you're pregnant and it can improve your symptoms in some ways. But then I think,
Gotcha.
afterwards, there's obviously all the other things that come along with it, like even being overtired and underhydrated and not
Oh,
nourishing
sure.
yourself the same way because you're taking care of babies. And
Oh, yeah.
but I just kind of ignored it, right? Like I kind of had the mindset that if I pretend it's not there and just be normal, I'll just be able to do whatever I want anyway. And nobody knows that this is really going on, right?
I'm really good at managing pot as well. So you're in the hospital for 3 days. Did you have any family with you or were you alone? Because you just seem to like travel on your own, where I'm the
Um,
guy who's like, no, I
yeah,
need as
yeah.
much support as possible.
Yeah, well, at the time, because I was working out of town and my partner Dan was living in Waterloo, I was in Markham. So I actually had a couple of really good friends who lived there. So fortunately, like they were able to drive me. But we were kind of the mindset like he was really working at the time and working really hard because we know we're going to have a new baby and all of this. So I also, I think, um, I mean, I just don't like people to feel stressed because of my health problems. Like, there's always that carryover where you feel the guilt of like, this is really affecting my partner because, now I'm asking them to leave work and support me. So, back then, I was really like very independent in all of my medical stuff. Like, I wouldn't always tell people exactly what was going on. I would just kind of like, minimize it and be like, oh, it's fine. Like, don't worry.
Yeah,
Fine. Dan hates that word so much. He's
yeah.
like, he just, when he hears me say it, I can just see his face, his nostrils flare. He's like, "Ah, you're not fine." Like, yeah, I'm great. It'll be fine. So,
I hear
yeah.
you. That's what all us MSers we say, when someone's like, how you doing? Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, fine.
Same
Fine.
shit.
Fine.
So,
It's such an F word. Yeah.
I get I usually say as good as I get. Like, how you
Yeah.
doing? As good as I get.
Yep.
all right.
Acceptable.
Yeah.
So she was telling me the story about the misfiring.
Oh yeah, now we're getting up to that. Now I have two kids,
Now
right?
you have two kids. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I have two kids and like I was always super super active. So when my kids were little, I was like, this is cool. Like I'm going to get back into running. I have a heart problem. Who cares? Like I've got this device. It's going to fix me if I have a problem. Like I'm going to do whatever I want anyway. So I remember I joined this learn to run group. I was like doing 5Ks and then I kind of like worked up to I was supposed to be doing this big 10K race coming up. And it was
Show off.
yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I'm like, oh, I could run, right? I just can't stand in one place. So as long as I keep moving, like I can make my body do this. Whatever the like detriment of it after, right? Like you know that you're gonna come down after and your body's gonna
Yeah,
be so
yeah, yeah.
pissed. But that's fine.
Makes
We're gonna do it anyway because I'm fine. So
sense.
I'm doing this running thing and we're kind of coming into a holiday weekend. It was like Labor Day weekend in 2012 and I was at home with my kids and I was hanging in the basement with my then like 4-year-old kid. 3-year-old's upstairs sleeping and we're just chilling. And he's like a very techie kid. He's super intelligent, like always wants to be on the computer, even from a young age. So I don't know what we were doing, but we were doing something on the laptop in the basement. We're just chilling on the couch and something kind of happens and like I guess I just black out. But it takes me like a minute and I kind of like look at him and I'm like, huh, like, did you hit me in the face by accident? Like, I don't know if I thought maybe he hit the computer and it hit me in the face. That's what it felt like. Felt like something like exploded in my face. So he like kind of looks at me and he's like, no. And then it happens again. And like, I kind of like, whatever, it goes black. And I kind of like almost like hear this like whiny noise, and then it's like bang, and I'm like, huh. So it takes me till like, I don't know, the third time for me to figure out what's going on. I'm like, oh fuck, like, oh yeah, I have a defibrillator. Like, that's what's happening. And he actually started to giggle because he thought I was playing a game. Because what would happen to me is when I would get a shock, my vocal cords would contract and it would make me scream like
Really?
really loud. So he's giggling, and I'm like, oh, like I'm in big trouble. Like I probably gonna croak right in front of my kid. So I say to him, I'm like, hey, I need you to go upstairs and get the phone. And he's like really good at instructions, even though he's 4. He's like right on it. So I'm like, go upstairs, get the phone, unlock the door. So he like, runs off, and I'm like, I better get my ass upstairs. So I go to like start walking up the stairs. Every time I stand up, bang, I like pass out and fall down. So I'm
Oh
like,
my.
okay, like I just need to get up 2 sets of stairs, get to my main floor, and not die while my kids are here. So I did eventually get upstairs. I laid on the kitchen floor, called my husband. I'm like, yo, you need to come home. Um, you know, I'm not okay. I'm not fine. So my kid's like standing at the door, and I hear him like just this joyful, like little, he's so stoked, right? He's so excited. There's a fire truck outside my house. He has no concept of what's going on, and I'm just so grateful, right?
Yeah.
So they come in, the whole entourage here, and they take him like out on the back deck and play with his tricycle the entire time. So I'm like, cool, this is awesome. So by this time, I had gotten shocked like 5 times. So I kind of tell them, they've never really had anyone in their 20s be defibrillated at their house. They don't know what's going on. They're kind of like, yo, this lady's crazy.
So you've had this in you for since 2012, right?
Um, the first one that I got was in 2006.
Oh, my bad. A lot sooner.
Yeah.
So
So
you,
I had like I was on my second I was on my I don't know, second or third
okay,
device.
okay,
So,
okay.
oh no, it was my third
Oh,
because the
okay,
second one got infected. I got it out, got a new one in.
okay.
So here's the other layer of this is the whole reason why this started happening was because I had a recalled device. It was a medical device recall. Okay. And the place that I got it in the States had actually just gotten the notice that it was recalled,
Wow.
but I still got one of the faulty ones. What? Are you
Isn't there a
shitting me?
settlement? Don't you get a settlement for that?
I mean, it was complicated because I got it
Okay,
in the US and blah, 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 blah.
okay.
So, but anyways, we'll go back to this like crazy like
Hmm.
event here. I end up like in the back of an ambulance. Like, I'm like, you can't leave me. I'm not leaving my house until my husband gets here, right? Like, I'm not. So he gets home. I don't know. He breaks like all sorts of laws getting home very quickly. And off I go to the hospital. And, it's like they're pretty nonchalant about it. And then I remember at one point getting shocked. And then shit gets real. Okay. They pull the ambulance over and they're like, pulling out their friggin' defibrillator pads and their shit. And they've got all their meds out. And I'm like, all right. Like, if a paramedic looks scared, you
Oh my
feel
God.
really fucked.
It's the same thing
Okay.
of a plane. When a stewardess looks scared, you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh
yeah, yeah.
shit.
Yeah, no, this dude looked scared. And of course, I kind of know what's going down. I'm asking him, I'm like, what's the rhythm show on your monitor? Because I'm trying to figure out, am I still getting shocked because this thing is firing, or is it because I'm actually having arrhythmia? So he's like, no, he's like, you keep going into VFib. Like, VFib is you're dead, right? So what it ended up like afterwards, they told me because I kept getting shocked, it makes your heart really irritable. And so because it's really irritable, like I was actually having those arrhythmias because it was like induced by damage from the device. So, this happens 3 more times on the way to the hospital. By the time I get there, I'm like, I'm probably gonna die, like I'm kind of thinking about it. I did have that moment where I was like, yo, like that might be the last time that I see my kids again, my husband, meanwhile, I'm just like, turn this fucking thing off, right? Like it's so scary. It's
Oh,
so
Mhm.
super scary, like you're
yeah.
just like you feel like you're completely out of control and you have this like foreign device in there, like
So
just
you know that you're going to the hospital to have surgery again?
I mean, I wasn't in that headspace yet, but I ultimately knew like I needed somebody to turn this thing off, right? So, it can be inhibited by a magnet. So they make these big donut magnets that if you're ever having anything medical done, they'll like tape it over top. So when I had had my kids and had, a C-section and had surgeries, they would like tape a magnet over top. So I'm like, give me a fucking magnet right now. And they're like, you better sedate this lady. Like she's going crazy. But I just was like,
Yeah.
it was really scary. I like wouldn't trust them when they told me that they turned it off. I was like, show me the computer, because like I'm still in this like really like heightened state of trauma where I'm like, I don't trust anyone right now.
I don't blame you there. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing scarier than an implanted medical device malfunctioning repeatedly
Yeah.
because you're thinking, like you said, you're thinking, is this the last time I pulled away from my house? And then
Hmm.
randomly you're getting jolted.
Yeah. And
Painful
the
or no?
crazy thing is, yeah, well, yes, very. So it's really
Okay,
weird because like when it's happening, you don't like really feel the pain, but it's kind of like when it knocks you and you kind of like wake up again, like it does hurt, right?
sure.
And again, like of course, it's like making my vocal cords contract. So every time it would happen, I would like scream and probably scare these people who were trying to just get me to the hospital, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, they were so grateful to just, I'm sure, like be there and be like, get this lady someone else.
So since then, did you have any scares or any issues you had they turned it off, they put in,
Yeah,
there is,
so I mean they turned it off at that time. And our wonderful Canadian medical system, they tried to tell me that I was gonna have to stay there and get transferred the following week because I'm at this like regional hospital. They don't have cardiac care and it's going into a long weekend. So, all the doctors are off and they're not accepting patients. So I'm like, no, actually I'm gonna sign out against medical advice. Give me the waiver and we're gonna drive to Toronto. So that's what we ended up doing. I ended up spending a week there, and uh, it was a really, really rough week. I remember getting there at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm now afraid to go to sleep because I think if I go to sleep, I'm probably going to die, right? And um,
that's
they're like,
crazy.
you're on the monitor, like we're watching your rhythm, you're safe, kind of thing, but like you don't feel very safe. So I spent the better part, I want to say, of the week alone. I had a private room because initially they put me with someone who had some crazy infection and they ended up moving me. But I remember at some points, like I was sitting in my room by myself, not able to sleep, and I would just like sit in the corner, like a crazy. I was going crazy, right?
Yeah.
And what was actually happening at the time was I was just having all of this crazy trauma stuff resurface from earlier in my life. But at the time, I wasn't able to say that. Like I was just really afraid. Like like I was having PTSD. I didn't know at the time that's what it was. But that's what was happening. Is like not only am I kind of going through this entire thing where I can remember every single point that I got shocked. I can remember exactly where I was because it was my commute to work as well because I work just across from the hospital. So I'm going through this and I'm like, reliving this. And then I've also got all this other really crazy stuff coming up. And I remember at one point saying to one of the one of the residents that I had, I remember him really distinctly because he had a hilarious accent. I think he was Swedish or something. And nobody could say his name, so they just called him Dr. Siggy. I was like, okay, cool. He was super. I mean, he spent a ton of time going through my history, talking to me about pros and cons of whether or not I wanted to get another defibrillator or pacemaker. What should I have? What should I get? And I said to him, I think I'm going crazy. And he was like, no, you're doing really well. He's like, you understand, like, because I had the language and the ability to understand the technical aspects of what was going on, it was very easy to minimize what was happening psychologically and emotionally at the time. Right. So
Yeah.
like I didn't have the language to say like exactly what was going on. But I do remember saying like, I don't think I'm okay. And then it was like, well, yeah, you're doing great. You're okay. So I get a new device. I ultimately decide I'm going to get a new defibrillator because, I still have the same risk of suddenly dying, which now slightly just shit got a little more real because it almost just happened, right?
Damn.
Yeah.
Um,
What
and I
about
went
what
home.
you while you're sleeping? Did it ever happen anytime ever when you were sleeping? Because you said you're scared to
Uh,
sleep, and that would scare the shit out of me too.
yeah, no, I'm trying to think. I think that maybe one time I have had like small arrhythmias where I've woken up and felt something, but people actually can get phantom shocks where like they feel like
Yeah.
they're getting shocked and they wake up and they're scared. I've maybe had that once, but I don't know if I was actually dreaming or yeah,
PTSD.
exactly. Exactly, right? So I get through all this craziness and I go home. I have
Mhm.
the surgery on a Friday. I go home on a Monday and I go back to work on Tuesday. I'm like, nothing ever happened. Nothing's wrong. I'm fine.
Let me tell you about my weekend.
Yeah, no, I didn't say anything. Like my
Shocker.
work, I had been at my work for 2 years, a job that I love, an amazing employer. But I just was like still at that stage in my life where it was like my work life and my private life were very separate. Those things didn't cross. It was like, we kind of know about each other's lives, but not those kind of details. So it was just very surface level. Like,
Wow.
so this happened, I'm okay. How are you? I'm okay. I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Meanwhile, I'm driving to work the same way every single day, like literally having anxiety, having panic, having PTSD symptoms,
Dude,
right?
minimum like that's uh, yes, agreed. Like it's so understated saying
Yeah.
you had severe PTSD
Yeah.
and you
But I
probably
mean,
still do, but
sometimes people say it almost like kind of in passing, like, ooh, my PTSD, you know?
and because it's thrown out a lot that everyone always never takes it serious, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, everyone throws out that word.
Yeah. Yeah. But
It's
I mean,
weird.
I wasn't really ready to deal with my shit either, right? Like I've got two little kids, I've got a job, I've got lots of other things to distract myself. And so I think a little bit later on that year, I ended up for the very first time, I asked to see a psychiatrist who deals with people who have cardiac problems. And, I went to him and it was like, I'm not telling this fucking old dude anything, right? Like, I don't know you, right?
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
we did not have rapport. I ended up seeking out a psychologist to do some therapy, and it was a similar situation. He was really nice. I tried to, do some of the things that we were doing, which was I don't know if you've ever heard of EMDR, eye
Um,
movement and desensitization retraining.
I've heard of it. I don't know
Yeah.
it. I
No.
don't.
So this was his kind of thing where like basically like it's kind of an indirect way to deal with trauma when you're not really ready to actually talk about what's going on. But I remember him being like, okay, you're going to go home and here's your homework. You're going to write down the 10 worst things that ever happened to you in your life. What? And not
Just the
lie
top
about
10.
it? Yeah, just the top 10. So I remember like putting all this and then like kind of like embedded in the middle. I'm like, we're not going to put this as number one because I don't want to talk about this. We're going to put this like right down here, which was that I had had a lot of abuse as a kid. And I just kind of put it in there. And it was like, nah, we're not going to go there. So I did this EMDR, which is like they'll get you to think about something that, happened to you. And you do this thing where for some people, they'll like tap you. For some people, they'll like wave their fingers back and forth and you move your eyeballs. And by moving your eyeballs, it's supposed to like scramble your brain and fix your thoughts. I'm doing a horrible job of explaining that.
It's okay. You know what, Nick? I had one of our guests on the show. I don't know if she went through this exact therapy thing, but
Yeah.
Elisa, she was telling me about
Oh,
this
okay.
eye movement therapy, exactly what you
Yeah.
said to bring
Yes.
up trauma.
Yeah.
And she was like, "You're gonna think I'm crazy." And I looked it up,
Yeah.
and I'm looking it up right now. And yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly what you're
It's
saying.
a legit thing, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
So,
I'm looking right at it.
yes.
yeah.
So if I may, it's
Yeah.
eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy is a mental health treatment technique. This method involves moving your eyes in a specific way while you process traumatic memories. EMDR's goal is to help you heal from trauma or other distressing life experiences. So, another
Well,
tool in the toolbox.
Yeah. So I did some of that. I don't
Okay.
remember how many sessions I did. I remember like feeling completely hungover after, like just wrecked. But it was like the tip of the iceberg. Like he would ask me like, "What do you see?" And I'd be like, "Nothing." Like, so there's this process where you're just emotionally blocking these things, right? Like, this is not
Mhm.
going to go any further. I did just enough to shove it all back under the rug. That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Like just to be functional. And then somewhere along the lines of like right when I was maybe finishing therapy, um, I found out that we were having a third baby. Woo! April Fools! Like we found out on April Fools.
Oh, great.
So
Yeah.
I was like, no, I have things to do now. I don't want to go to therapy. Like now I'm busy going to baby appointments again.
Hold on, hold on. When you found out you're having another baby on April Fools, how did
Mhm.
you tell your husband on April Fools? Come on, that's another story right there.
Well, it was kind of awesome
True.
because at the time, he was working like a really corporate job where like they would have these fancy dinner parties. Can you imagine me going to a fancy dinner party?
What do you mean? Of
Ugh.
course I can't,
You can
dude.
dress
Shut
me up,
up.
but you can't take me anywhere. But anyway, we're going to this thing where they're having like wine tasting with their foods and all of this. And I'm like, oh, like I'm kind of late. So he goes to the gas station and he picks up a pregnancy test and I forget what else. And he comes home and he's like, I guess you better take this before we go to this party to drink wine. And I'm thinking, like, there's no way, right? Like, we had just gotten rid of all of our baby stuff. We're having two kids. That's it. You know, we have a 3 bedroom place. Like, now, like, we're working hard. We're like, building our little nest egg. I pee on that stick, and wouldn't you know, positive. We both just didn't speak. We just, we went to this party. We were and it's not because we were upset, but we were just like astounded. We're like, uh,
It works.
oh, we're like the kind of people where he could like be in the same room and be like, "You're pregnant," right? And I'm thankful for it because I have a lot of friends who are opposite and who have had issues. But
Yeah.
we just were like, "Oh man, like this is awesome," because we never could have actively made the decision to go through having another pregnancy. But it also was like, well, what is this one going to bring? Right? Like, how am I going to be? Am I going to need time off or am I going to? So, my second baby actually was a preemie. She was born at 32 weeks, and I had spent a month on bed rest in the hospital while I had a 1-year-old.
Oof. Oof.
So, we kind of knew like this could be risky. We don't know how risky. As it turns out, I had a great pregnancy, great everything. Um, so, and
Did,
then I had 3 babies.
did you
Yahoo!
guys talk about having a third one, or were you guys like, no more kids, we're done, health
Um,
issues, we don't want to risk it?
yeah, I mean, I think we were probably more on the like, we think we're done.
Okay.
It wasn't like out of the question, but we were pretty done. Like, we were literally like, here, we're giving all our shit away, take our cribs and all this.
Dude, I can't wait to meet Dan.
He's pretty fun.
Like,
Yeah.
anyway, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
He
cool.
definitely is like, he's like a very calm, like, very collected person.
I'm looking at my notes here, and the thing that's jumping out at me is did the did the L2 sever even come into play yet, or have we not
No, no,
gotten
no,
to
no,
that,
no. This is
that
like
point of the
years
story?
later. Yeah,
Oh
no,
my
this is like all
goodness,
pre-spinal cord
Terry!
injury shit.
Holy
Okay.
moly!
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
All
and
right,
then
all right, all right.
so now I have 3 kids. I still love my job. Um,
Were you happy that something finally happened to you where it was noticeable and it wasn't like hidden?
oh, like
Like,
when I had a spinal cord injury?
yeah, like
No, I
now
was
you have.
horrified. No, no, it was not cool to me. It was no, absolutely not. Because until that point, it was like I can defy everything, right? Like I
Uh-huh.
will run my body to the ground just to prove that I can. So that's literally what I would do. Like I would like do like a 50K trail race overnight and just like put all this effort into. I mean, I wasn't winning anything. I wasn't doing it to win it. I was doing
Just
it because I literally could.
you could be
Yeah.
I would
normal
make
again.
myself.
Yeah, I know that feeling. I've been there, done that. As
Yeah,
if I don't go to sleep broken, then I didn't have a good day
that's right. Yeah.
back then. Now
Yeah. Very like, yeah, it's kind of dumb now that I think about it. I mean, it's
I
not
agree.
dumb. I get it where it's coming from, but it's just, yeah. It's different when you have stuff going on. Nobody knows that it's going on because it's
Mhm.
much easier to conceal. So in between like pre-spinal cord injury and while all this crazy stuff is happening. I do eventually get back into running because I didn't get to do that 10K because my, defibrillator fucked it up for me, and I ended up missing that, and I was pissed. But I did eventually get back into running, and actually, this this running team that I got into was based out of Toronto. And I vaguely remember seeing this guy who, his name's JP. JP was doing all these fundraisers for this group in Toronto called the Gatehouse. And the Gatehouse is, it's a place that offers free counseling for people who have had childhood abuse. You can go there and you can do like, if you need to do a disclosure where like the police are recording you, they can do that there. And so I found out about this, and I remember seeing him on TV. And my friends asked me to go to this run with this guy, and I was like, nope, I'm not going, because if I go there, he's going to be able to tell that this happened to me. He'll be able to see it. It's like it's written on my head. Okay. Like
Okay.
as if
Right.
somebody can see all your problems. Like nobody can see all your problems. Although I can actually, I really do have a knack for attracting patients who have a lot of anxiety or PTSD or medical problems because I can see it, right? I'm like,
Right.
yeah, like what do I need to do right now to kind of like help you out, because I can tell that you're not comfortable, right?
Dude, that is you my whole trip.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
totally.
That's
Which I
my
feel bad
gift.
now because
No, not
you're
at
going
all.
through something I had no idea. I'm like, oh, she's got it together.
Yeah, no, I
And you do
mean,
have it together. I'm
nobody
not
has
saying
it
you
together.
don't. No, but you know what I mean. But like,
Yeah.
meanwhile,
Yeah. So this happens, and I end up thinking like, well, I never say no to anything. So if I tell my friends I'm not going to go to this, then they're going to think something's up. So I end up getting involved with this running group. Turns out that this guy is the person who just changed the trajectory of my mental health. So I don't really even know how it came to be, but I guess I just decided that it was time to deal with some of my shit. And the program that they have at this place, the Gatehouse, you basically go and you do like a counseling session with a one-on-one person. And then they've got all these programs where it's like a 16-week thing for their treatment. You go for like, I don't know, 3 hours a week, and it's like group therapy. And I mean, group therapy is really important because you then realize that other people have had this shit happen to them too, right? So between doing that and like I would say that I did that for I did two 16-week programs, and then I also was seeing a psychologist who was very helpful to me. I ended up finding this lady who had done a ton of trauma therapy, had a really good connection with her. And so I just worked through all of this crazy shit and realized, oh, like, this is why I feel so fucked up, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still see her, or is this like
No,
like
I did actually see her once after my spinal cord injury just to kind of check in because I
yeah,
needed a little bit of a reality check.
yeah,
But since then, no, I haven't really felt the need to do that because I feel like my own toolbox is a lot fuller, and I have a lot of the skills from all of these other health problems and dealing with, these mental health issues as well. That yeah, my toolkit was pretty full, pretty stocked. So yeah,
Phew, my goodness. And that is just an incredible amount of things to survive and deal with, and holy smokes, like, and then
yeah,
three kids on top of it.
yeah. Oh, and
So,
then add a couple other things in there. So while I was actively pursuing taking an abuser to court and losing part of my family because they couldn't deal with the truth,
mm,
I was having some complications from my device. I ended up getting this problem where um, your veins just get very scarred from having so many leads put in and out of them.
hmm
So I developed this thing called superior vena cava syndrome, SVC syndrome, where if you bend, the blood return isn't getting to your head, and it basically like will make your face turn red and purple, and then you'll just pass out. So this
SVC.
SVC, yeah, SVC syndrome.
Wow,
So I ended up
wow.
having all these tests done where like they would go through and do like a dye test to see if the blood was flowing through, and I had
Oh
no
my
blood flow to
goodness.
the one side where these leads were.
So for those of you playing along at home, if you stand up, your blood pressure spikes. If you lay down or bend over, your blood pressure drops.
Yeah.
So you can't really stand still. You can't really lay down. You can't.
Yeah.
Thank goodness you had little ones that kept you moving all the
Yeah,
time.
but I couldn't do their shoes up.
Right, because you can't lean over.
This sounds
Exactly.
like a really cool game. By the way, was
Right?
your husband at any time say, just take her, I want a refund?
No, never, never. Like as messed up as things would get, as and so to back up a little bit too, I've been with him since I was 17 years old. I'm 44. So like we have had, we've had a long time to establish our connection, our communication. But I mean, he didn't know all this stuff either, right?
Sure.
But once I was able to talk with him and he like started figuring out what was going on, it was like this light bulb. He's like, that's why you would act so weird when this, or like, that's why
Yeah.
you're so weird about this part of your family, or this and that. And like, like there's a lot of things, a lot of layers going on. But no, he never asked for a refund, even though like I'm literally now well past my best before date. I'm past expiry. Like this is all now I'm rotten, right? No,
Oh,
no refunds, no exchanges. No,
funny.
he just takes me exactly as I am at whatever stage of messed upness that happens to be. So
That is wonderful to hear.
yeah, yeah,
That's
he's really
kind of
cool. I kind of love him a lot.
I love the guy
it,
too.
Yeah,
it's kind
yeah,
of what we all hope for, right?
yeah, totally.
What a
Yeah.
saint.
So I get this problem with my veins, and at the same time, I'm also having like some female problems after I have my third baby. My uterus tries to attack me and tries to make me bleed to death. So I end up getting a hysterectomy and have
Why
like
not?
bleed out because I'm on blood thinners and have blood transfusions and blah, 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 blah. That also screwed up one of my races that I was supposed to be doing a 25K.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well, phew.
we had our own race and all my friends came. This is actually one of my favorite
Oh.
races of all time. We had a farewell uterus run, and my friend made me this little bubble paint uterus t-shirt that said bye bye. It was amazing. I had a cake that had a uterus on it that said bye bye bitch. It was awesome.
You have
Awesomest running party ever.
you got pictures of that stuff
Yes,
on
totally.
social media if I go
Oh,
down?
way back.
Cool.
Because this
Thank
is
you.
in like 2016, 17 kind of
Cool.
ish.
What a fantastic support system.
Yes. Yeah, my friends are
Like,
great. Like they put up
oh my
signs
goodness.
around the place. It would be like, I have 99 problems and a uterus isn't one of them. Like it was
Wait,
literally
that's
one of
so
the
funny, dude.
one of the most fun runs of my life. And like I think there were maybe I want to say like 15 of us went and
Yeah.
spent
That's
the
great.
entire day at this park. And the cool thing was the race director who was going to be there for the run the following weekend, he was there and he's like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" And so we told him, we're like, "Oh, I was supposed to be doing this race next weekend, but I'm having surgery." He's like, "Hang on a second." He like comes over, he's like, "You're the first one to receive a medal for this year's race." I was like, "Yay!" Like I definitely didn't win it, but I yeah, it was really nice gesture. So
Hearing this story, you win it every time you open your eyes, girl.
yeah,
Whew,
I know, right?
there's a
So I'm
lot.
like, cool, like get rid of all that stuff. And, I fought for like, I advocated for myself in that because my mom had died of cancer when I was 24. And there was this possibility that it was ovarian cancer. They don't really know because it was so advanced. But my
Mhm.
grandmother had also died of breast cancer and she had had it once when she was young. She was only 36. So because of all these hormonal things and me needing a hysterectomy, I said, like, take it all, right? Like, I'm rotten, take it all. And they're like, we're not going to take your ovaries out because you're only this many years old, blah, blah, blah. And
Oh,
I'm
you
like,
hate that? That's
my body, my choice. You're
yeah. They
taking
did.
it.
They
Yeah.
said the same thing to my wife. They after we had our second child, they were like, we were done. We're like, all right,
Yeah.
two. That's what And
Yep.
she's like, I'm ready. While you're in there, because she had a C-section, she's like, can
Mm-hmm.
you just tie him up and
Yep.
And I said, well, no, you're still too young. It's
Mm-mm.
been causing problems ever since. So
Yeah. No.
So because you're too young, why won't they do it? It's just a
In case you change your
a
mind.
moral thing? It's
Yeah.
okay, that's what it is.
It's
Get out
it's
of here.
actually what it is. It's the medical patriarchy is what it is. That this is a whole other podcast, right? Like, and I'm
I
sure you
agree.
run into this all the time, but it runs deep. It runs deep. Like, if you go ask for a vasectomy, they'll give
Yeah.
it to you tomorrow. I want to go and get
Yeah.
something done with my reproductive organs. I need my husband to sign a paper. They asked us
Yep.
like four
Yep.
times before they tied my tubes. Are you sure? You both have to say yes in front of the doctor. Like,
That's ridiculous.
it's so
No,
dumb.
she's right. It's true.
So
Yep,
true.
very true.
Yeah.
So I have two girls. They're 19 and 20. Just the amount of stories that I've heard over the years from my wife and my girls about doctors not
Hmm.
listening,
Yeah.
not believing. Like we've switched doctors a bunch of times, so that's very real.
Yeah. Yeah. Pain control is approached in a completely different way in
Mhm.
females.
Yep.
Like it can be very traumatic for sure. Like there's all
Hmm.
those other layers that are in there. But anyway, I successfully got rid of all of those things and I do not miss them. Do not miss them at all. So in between that, I get that done. And then we have to eventually do something about this vessel problem. So I was coming up on the date where my battery was running low on my device anyway. So we had pre-planned that when I was going to be due for replacement, they would actually go in and remove my defibrillator, take the leads out of the vessels, and then I would get this like crazy pacemaker that has patch wires that they put on the outside surface of your heart and they sew it on. So it's kind of old school. This is like typically what they would do in a baby because their vessels aren't big enough to put the leads through. They would
Hmm.
usually put it like in their abdomen and they would open it up, kind of patch the leads onto the outside of the heart. So I'm again thinking like, cool, this will fix all my
Are you understanding
problems.
this, Nick? Because I'm lost.
I am.
But I
I'm
am
totally
like
with her.
trying to
Yep.
Okay,
grasp.
so I get a fancy pacemaker, but this
Okay.
one, instead of being able to go through my vessels and just like I actually kind of look like I've had an autopsy that's not connected because I have scar, 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 and then one down the middle. But it's like not quite the Y incision where they would like do a Y and open
Yeah.
your entire cavity. So
Are
it's
you
kind
are
of
you entertained by this, dude?
Me? Oh yeah, this is
No, no,
fascinating.
her. She's like,
Oh,
I said this.
yeah.
Oh
it's
It's
all
God.
it's
the funny thing is it's all like nobody else can see any of this,
right.
right? Like I'm a freak show. I'm a freak show. Nobody can see any of this. I'm completely normal. I'm great. Nothing is wrong. So
You're
now
fine.
I'm going to have open heart surgery. So I do that. I have open heart surgery. Nothing ever goes to plan, right? Like if there's going to be a complication, I'm probably going to get it. So I end up with this. Oh, and I should actually say one other thing. Like I have had a lot of medical things done, but the one thing that I really recommend that you never, ever, ever have to do is have your sternum sawed open.
No, that's bad.
It sucked.
That's not supposed to
It
happen.
really sucked. Sucked. Probably maybe the most of anything that I've ever had done, which that's a strong, strong statement. Do not
Yeah.
ever need open heart surgery. Sucked. But anyways, I get through it. I do this thing. I'm like, cool. We're supposed to be actually going on this adventure to the Olympics in the new year. And it was like I had this done in, I don't know, October, November. So I'm like, cool, I'll have a couple months to recuperate and get in shape to go watch the Olympics in Korea. Instead, my body's like, oh, you have a foreign object in you. Let's reject these wires that are in your sternum and
Oh
create a gaping
no,
hole in your
no,
chest. So at the bottom
no.
of my sternum incision, I've got this hole.
Wow.
It's just a little hole, you know? And this thing, it just won't close. It won't close. It won't. So we're like, okay, we're just going to keep giving you antibiotics. It's going to close. It'll close. Um, I went to the Olympics. And then when I got back, they were like, we're going to have to do all this shit again because the hole is still there and you might have an infection. So let's take it all out.
Hold on.
Uh-huh.
So you didn't even wait for it to close?
Before I went to the Olympics,
No, no. After the Olympics, you still had a hole.
it was just a little hole. I mean,
Just
it was just little. It wasn't really like bothering me other than it was like kind of gross because, like you're not supposed to have like a open wound on your chest, but
Yeah.
whatever. I'm like, I don't know, my bra's in the way. It's probably eroding it or something. Like, I'll think of another reason for this to be there. There's nothing wrong with it. But long story short, it ended up being okay. I didn't end up having to have like a major surgery. I just had what they call a sternum revision, which I also don't recommend. So they went
Huh.
in, they cleaned out my sternum, they took all the wires because they use like metal wires to hook it all back together once they break your sternum apart. They like put it together like a zipper, and then they put little wires around it. They took all those out.
They make
cleaned it
those
all out.
noises, Terry.
Yeah, cleaned it all out, and then ta-da! Poof, I'm all
Frankenstein.
better. Yeah. And then I decided that I was going to run 50K after that because I was fine still. And I did actually run 50K. I was so
Wow.
stoked about it.
Dude,
Yeah.
Wow.
today, are you fine?
Yeah, I'm actually doing pretty well. Yeah, I'm fine.
But you're not. Like you're fine. But you still
Yeah.
haven't. I don't even know where to start. Wouldn't even
Okay.
get.
This is all the invisible shit. This is all that, like, I'm still normal. I still have a job. Nobody knows what's going on. Everything is fine.
And
It's
here I
fine.
am with you on the plane, like, oh my God, my anxiety. And you're like, shut up.
No, I never feel like that. That's so funny because that's like the furthest thing from how I feel when other people are having anxiety or trauma. Like I feel it, right? Like it's like a spidey sense for me. I can see it on your body. I can just tell what's going on. Even if you look normal, like I can tell if you're not normal. I'm like, "Hey, yo, like I'll distract you. I'll tell you something funny or whatever." But I never feel like my shit is more important than someone else's. And like that was something even going through therapy that was really important for people is like the term trauma trumping someone, like
Uh-huh.
telling someone
Uh-huh.
all your trauma in order to like make it bigger than someone else's. It's not cool, you know? Like which is sometimes why I don't talk about all this. Could you imagine telling somebody all of this? It's absurd.
I had to pry it out of her in the trip.
Oh
I was
yeah,
talking to her
like
and she mentioned something. I'm like, whoa, 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 let's get back to that.
yeah.
And then slowly I'm like, yeah.
Well, and then at some points you don't remember who knows and who doesn't. So last week I went away to ride bikes. It was incredible. And I had a little crash and I was coming out on the trail with a person that I don't know and someone that I know quite well from biking, but she doesn't know all this crap. And I happened to mention something and was like, oh, wait a second, did I ever tell you about this? And she's like, what? No. And the reason why it came up is because at one point when I was getting out of the trail, I had hurt my shoulder. So now I have two no worky legs and a no worky arm. Now I have one arm to get off the trail. What the hell am I going to do? So somebody says, do we need to call search and rescue? Terry, you know what happened to my face. You saw it when the ambulance came to the
I wanted to
event,
mention
right?
that, but we like how many we don't even have time. Like,
Yeah, no, no. Like
yeah.
I was like, if you call search and rescue, I will not be your friend anymore.
So
Like
really, really fast, when we were at the demonstration in
the
Edmonton,
yeah, the neuro thing.
someone had
Zebrafish
an
neuro.
inch. Yes, yes. And I don't know if you can see it. Oh no, you can't. I took it's over there. Never mind. Anyway, so there was an injury where someone they called an ambulance to check up on this guy. So me and Jen were just sitting here, whatever. We're like watching everyone kind of help this guy out. People are talking. And then I'm looking to the ambulance, the ambulance arrives, and I'm looking at the ambulance because I'm a child and I'm like, wow, it's an ambulance. And then I turn to my left and I look at Jen because I wanted to be like, Jen, you looking at this shit? And as I look at Jen, dude, I'm not shitting you. Wet, her face soaked, and she's not looking like she's panicking or anything, but you can,
Uh-huh.
and I'm like, oh my God. And dude, you could just tell. And then she's like, she looks at me and goes, I'm sorry. It's not, I'm okay. It's just PTSD. I'm fine. It's just
I'm
PTSD.
not in control of this situation. I'm not the person taking care of this person. So now I'm not okay.
And you
I'm
didn't even
okay if I'm
say
in control.
PTSD or
Yeah,
anything. I just
no.
looked at you and you're like, yeah, it's because it's a real thing. I'm like, I see it. I see it. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. I wish I could help you.
No, it was all right. I mean, I got through it, but like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
recognize that in my own limitations.
That was
So yeah,
crazy.
when they were like going to bring, search and rescue, I'm like, actually, now I need to tell these people that if they ever do need to do that, you're going to have to sedate the fuck out of me because I will punch you. Like, I'll turn into a crazy lunatic. I won't even be myself. It'll just be not Jen. Yeah.
Wow. And I assume those are recumbent bikes.
Yep. So, if you launch it, if you send it hard, like you're rolling over in basically like a cart, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I did kind of do that, but it was fun. It was totally worth it. And I did get off the trail safely and with a few little stories. So
What one more thing? Is it a
yeah.
few little stories the time you fell and you posted it on Instagram? Isn't that you on the floor sideways and you're like, this is my
Oh,
life.
that was a different one. That was not an
Oh,
injury
okay.
one. That was like a woohoo. I just sent it too hard and fell sideways. That's
Be
that's no
fun.
big deal. Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Yeah,
Why is that bone
totally.
sticking out? No, no, I'm fine.
No, it's great.
Whew. That is that is an unbelievable story. I mean, just any one of those things would make an entire episode. But to have, whew, now I see why you don't do it because you're like, this is just my life, and I just tackle one major inconvenience after another, and I'm
But
still
like
here.
I have an awesome life, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
this
Right.
is all just the noise. Like I do all sorts of cool shit, you know? Like I'm not sad. So when people are like, "Oh, I thought you'd be out of that wheelchair by now." Hmm. And like I even had a lady say it to me who uses a wheelchair and I was like, "What? Like why are you saying that to me?" She's like, "I hope next time I see you you're out of that chair." And I wanted to be like, "You too." You know,
Yeah.
like I'm living my best life over here, you know? Like
Well, it certainly
yeah,
sounds like it. Holy
Jen, you're
smokes.
so awesome, man. You
Yeah,
know
what
what?
a
You forever will. I will have a bond with you because you came with me on this trip, and
you're
I
gonna
was
come biking with me. Look at his face.
Terry's next adventure.
enough of the
There's
adventures.
there's an adaptive hub in Hamilton that we're gonna go to. It's
Those
not
bikes are
it's
expensive.
not mountain biking. This is like
Okay,
chill biking.
I'm down for it. Whatever.
Park
I say it
trail.
now just because it's easy to say it, and then when
Well, there's a whole side project that's springing up is who can take Terry Ware to get into what adventure.
Yes,
oh
totally.
my god,
He's up for it.
Jen, I'm up for
Oh,
it with you. Yes, if
Yeah.
somebody was like, "Hey, you want to go do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do," but I will never do it,
Well, and you know I have your back. Like if you like
dude. I
chop
went
your
on a
head off,
plane
I
trip
can
with you.
reattach it.
I'm
But if
gonna.
it's my blood or my kids, no deal. I'm passed out.
I remember you saved me a couple times when my chair was doing this whole thing, but you
Yeah.
also threw me out of a van a couple times.
I just gave you a gentle nudge.
does the van stopped or
Yes.
oh
Yeah.
okay.
It was just to get him down the ramp. He's being a baby.
I couldn't fit my chair in and out, so she just
I just
manhandled me in.
turned him a little and like
Oh
shoved
man.
him.
You go back and listen to that episode.
Goodness.
We explain it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you just come back this morning, you said?
No, no, no. But I was riding today, but
Riding, that's what you
I
said you were
was
riding today.
yeah, I rode today. Yesterday I was supposed to ride, but it rained, so it ended up being a barbecue with beer at 11 in the morning.
There you
Um,
go.
yeah, and I rode in Squamish. I got back last week from that.
Yeah, I said this to you before and you don't want to take it, but you put me to shame, dude.
No, I don't. There's no such thing as that.
That's crazy.
Uh, no, just a wonderful example of the many horrible things that can happen to you. And if your attitude stays right, your life is still awesome, right?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, like I'm not gonna like paint it with the like rosy brush. Like there's some real shit times in there,
Sure,
you
sure.
know? But like it could have been a lot more shit,
Hmm.
right? Like I could be like, well, first of all, not alive, which would really
Very true.
suck.
That's pretty much the
Um,
worst.
you know, and uh I could have decided after having my injury that I was just gonna stay in a hospital bed in my living room.
Hmm.
But when you have stuff to look at and you have, you know, three kids coming home every day from school and coming to hang out with you beside your bed, you're like, well, I better get my ass up because I got things to do.
I'm so curious how, if I were to talk to your son, how he would explain what happened to you throughout these years. And
Yeah.
especially when you were, well, he was too young to.
Well, he remembers, right? Like this kid, he's got a photographic memory and he's on the spectrum. So, you know, then some part of me also is like, you know, how much of that trauma fucked him up when he was 4? You know,
Yeah.
like,
Mm.
is it my fault that, you know, there's some anxiety there, this or that, or whatever? But like, you know, the way that we see it is we're very truthful with our kids. If they ask a question, we've never lied to them and said like that nothing's wrong when I'm in the hospital. We've always told them the truth. Um, you know, were they scared at some points? Yeah, I'm sure they were. But we also, they know that our attitude is that like we'll figure it out, you know? So they figured it out too.
Jen, again, thanks for being here. Um, We didn't even really get into the spinal
Well,
cord
No,
issues.
we'll have to have a
No.
part two.
sorry. I just
No.
had too much shit. You're the one who asked about all my shit. You said I had problems. We could have skipped all of that. We could have totally skipped that whole thing.
Oh my God. I thought you were gonna make fun of me at some point about the
No,
hotel
no,
room and
no. Why would
okay.
I?
Good.
No,
Yeah, good. Why would you?
it was very eye-opening to hear a whole bunch of, we often think of hidden illnesses as MS or as, whatever, but all of these things, like you said, you could just keep going to work and you're fine because you don't have anything visible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it it just highlights how vast the number of things out there
hmm But I mean, it's
is.
also like, when we were talking about what the difference is when something does become visible is like it's a very different experience, and there's a huge contrast in how people perceive you and speak to you and treat you as well. So that's a whole other podcast.
It is, and I've experienced brief snippets of that when people change their tone or inflection or even speech cadence when I'm in the chair as opposed to walking around. They tend to talk to me like my IQ is somehow diminished because my
Oh,
legs
good
don't work.
for you.
Yep, yep, pretty much. Yep. So I hear
Jeez.
that.
So Jen, you let us know when you start your podcast. I'd love to be a guest on it.
Oh, I'm not, no, I'm not down with that.
Okay.
It's not my thing. I'll just be on your podcast.
We'll bring you back on if that's okay with you.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to talk about the part two, we can do that.
Whatever. No, we'll just bring you on as a guest and we can just talk,
Cool.
for sure. Jen, I will talk to you soon. I will
Sounds
have
good.
to meet up with you eventually.
Yes,
Mhm.
we keep
Oh,
saying that. And,
yeah, yeah. It's
like anything else, it's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We'll do it someday.
someday.
So maybe this summer,
There
maybe.
you go.
Yeah.
Good to meet you,
Nick,
Jen.
Yeah.
it was great talking, bro.
Great to be back, brother.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon, man.
Later.
So check us out at 40belowzero.com. That's 4 T below zero.com. Or feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Our email address is info@40belowzero.com. Our personal Instagram account are, for Nick's, it's Nix_V713. Or for Terry, it's What's_MS. Awesome. Looking forward to hearing from you guys. We'll talk soon.